Before we get into this, I need you to understand something. I need you to fully appreciate the weight of what we are about to discuss. Because this is not a conversation about a bad game. This is not a conversation about a rough week or a short slump or the kind of temporary blip that every pitcher, even the great ones, experiences at some point during the long, unforgiving grind of a major league season. This is a conversation about something much bigger, much darker, and much more consequential than any of that. This is a conversation about the possible unraveling of one of the greatest pitchers who has ever lived. And what makes it genuinely heartbreaking, what makes it the kind of story that keeps you up at night if you care even slightly about this Toronto Blue Jays team, is that the numbers are not lying. The tape is not lying. The Cleveland Guardians hitters who stood in that batter's box last night and absolutely demolished everything that Max Scherzer threw at them were most definitely not lying. Mad Max is in trouble. Real, serious, potentially season-altering trouble. And the Blue Jays are running out of time to figure out what to do about it. Hit that subscribe button right now and smash that like. Because if you are a Blue Jays fan and you are not watching this channel, you are missing the most honest, most unflinching, most thoroughly researched coverage of this team anywhere on the internet. We are going deep today. We are going places that are uncomfortable. And we are going to have a conversation that a lot of people are dancing around but nobody is quite willing to say out loud. Let's get into it. Let's start with the numbers. Because in baseball, the numbers are where the truth lives, and the truth about Max Scherzer's 2026 season so far is about as brutal as it gets. A WAR of -0.8. An ERA of 9.64. A WHIP of 1.607. Read those numbers again. Let them sit with you for a moment. 9.64. That is not the ERA of a veteran presence anchoring a big league rotation. That is not even the ERA of a back-end starter trying to eat innings and keep games close. That is the ERA of a pitcher who is being treated, by opposing hitters, by the baseball gods, by the cold and unfeeling mathematics of the sport, like batting practice. And that would be difficult enough to process if we were talking about just any pitcher. But we are not talking about just any pitcher. We are talking about Max Scherzer, 3-time Cy Young Award winner, no-hit artist. A man who once pitched through a broken nose in the postseason because he physically could not stand the idea of not being on that mound. A competitor so fierce, so relentlessly driven, so psychologically unbreakable that his nickname, Mad Max, was not given to him ironically. It was earned through years of overwhelming, suffocating, historically elite performance. And that is exactly why watching what is happening right now is so profoundly, deeply uncomfortable. Because this does not look like Max Scherzer. Not even a diminished version of Max Scherzer. This looks like something else entirely. Something wrong. Something that goes beyond a mechanical adjustment or a game plan tweak or a conversation between the pitcher and his catcher about sequencing. And the evidence for that conclusion is stacking up with every single start. Let's talk about what Keegan Matson reported. A stretch of statistics from Scherzer's last 4 starts that should be required reading for every Blue Jays fan who is still trying to convince themselves this is just a phase. 12 2/3 innings pitched. 19 earned runs. 6 home runs. 7 walks. 6 strikeouts. In 4 starts. 4 complete outings where Max Scherzer walked to that mound as a major league starter and walked off having done more damage to the Blue Jays' chances of winning than the opposing lineup could ever have hoped to do on its own. And the timing of this collapse, the specific moment when everything began to unravel, is something that cannot be ignored no matter how uncomfortable it makes everyone in the building. It was when Scherzer first reported forearm tendinitis. That is the inflection point. That is where the decent early season start ended and the nightmare began. His first outing was manageable. Not great, but manageable. Something you could point to and say, okay, he's shaking off the rust, getting into the rhythm of things, he'll be fine. And then the forearm issue was disclosed. And then everything, absolutely everything, fell apart. Now, Scherzer himself came out after the game and said clearly, definitively, with the kind of directness you would expect from a man of his character, that his forearm did not cause last night's performance. He said he has to watch the tape, go back to work, figure out what went wrong. He used language that most athletes in his position would never use. He said, "You get punched in the face, spit it out, wake back up, and figure out what's wrong. No excuses. No deflection. Pure accountability. And for that honesty and that ownership, you have to respect the man deeply." But here is the uncomfortable question that respect does not answer. Is watching the tape actually going to fix this? Because the problem with Max Scherzer right now is not a problem that lives in the film room. It is not a problem of preparation or game planning or mental approach. Max Scherzer has forgotten more about preparing for opposing lineups than most pitchers will ever learn. His preparation has never been the issue. His competitiveness has never been the issue. His willingness to work has never been the issue. The issue is the stuff. The pure, physical, velocity and movement stuff that a pitcher needs to survive at the major league level. And right now, across every single metric that measures the quality of Scherzer's pitches, the picture is deeply alarming. His breaking ball run value sits in the bottom 3 percentile in all of baseball. Not the bottom third. Not the bottom 10%. The bottom 3%. That means that of all the pitchers who are currently throwing a breaking ball in the major leagues, 97% of them are doing it more effectively than Max Scherzer is right now. His strikeout rate is down. His whiff rate, the percentage of swings that result in misses, is down. And if you remember what Max Scherzer looked like in his prime, if you have any memory at all of the version of this man who was routinely mowing down entire lineups and racking up strikeouts at a pace that made fantasy baseball managers giddy with joy, then you understand why these numbers feel less like a statistical anomaly and more like a eulogy. His expected ERA, even accounting for the fact that his actual ERA is somewhat inflated by sequencing and luck, still comes in at 6.11. 6.11. That means that even if every ball in play against him had landed exactly where the expected outcome suggested it should, he would still be posting the kind of ERA that gets pitchers sent to the bullpen or designated for assignment. The math is not being cruel to Max Scherzer. The math is just telling the truth. And when you break down his actual pitch arsenal, when you go pitch by pitch and look at what each one of his offerings is doing against major league hitters this season, the truth becomes even harder to look at. His four-seam fastball is being hit for a .300 batting average with a slugging percentage of .533. Now yes, the four-seamer is often the most vulnerable pitch in a starter's repertoire. Even elite pitchers see their fastball get hit harder than their other offerings, because hitters know it is coming and sit on it. But those elite pitchers can absorb fastball damage because their secondary pitches, their sliders, their changeups, their curveballs, are forcing weak contact, generating swings and misses, keeping hitters off balance and uncomfortable. That is the dynamic that makes a pitcher survivable even when the fastball is getting elevated. That dynamic does not exist for Scherzer right now. His slider, historically one of the most lethal weapons in his entire repertoire, a pitch that has ended careers in the sense that it has been so unhittable that it made hitters look foolish for entire at-bats, is currently being hit for a batting average against of .273 with a slugging percentage of .682. .682 slugging against his slider. That pitch is not just getting hit. It is getting destroyed. It is being treated by opposing hitters the way a T-ball is treated by a 7-year-old who just discovered they have a good swing. There is no respect for it. There is no fear of it. There is no moment where a hitter steps into the box, sees the slider coming out of Scherzer's hand, and has to make a difficult decision. They are just swinging. And they are connecting. The changeup is arguably the best pitch he has right now, and even that caveat comes loaded with its own disturbing reality. The changeup is generating a batting average against of .250 with a slugging of .333, numbers that are tolerable by comparison, numbers that at least suggest hitters are not absolutely pulverizing it. But here is the thing about a pitch that hitters are not hitting for extra bases. You still need it to get people out. And Scherzer's changeup has a 0% put-away rate. As in, it is not retiring anyone. Hitters are making contact with it, staying alive on it, and moving on to the next pitch of the at-bat as if the changeup was nothing more than a speed bump on their way to a long count. The curveball, which Scherzer does not deploy frequently, is being hit for a .429 batting average when it does appear. His cutter sits at a .333 batting average against. There is no pitch in his arsenal right now that functions as a weapon. Every single offering he makes to opposing hitters carries risk, and not the managed, calculated, acceptable risk that elite pitchers live with every time they take the mound. This is unmanaged risk. This is walking a tightrope without a net risk. And the results, inning after inning, start after start, are reflecting that reality with brutal efficiency. And nothing, absolutely nothing, illustrated this more perfectly than the final at-bat of his outing against the Cleveland Guardians. Angel Martinez, a hitter who had already homered against Scherzer earlier in the game, already had his number, already demonstrated that he had seen enough of what Scherzer was throwing to do real damage with it. And yet there they were again. One more time. And it started so promisingly. The first 2 pitches of the at-bat produced an 0 and 2 count. 0 balls, 2 strikes. You are 1 pitch away from ending this at-bat, from escaping this inning, from giving your team a chance to breathe. On 0 and 2 against a competent major league pitcher, a hitter is in genuine trouble. On 0 and 2, the pitcher holds all the cards. The entire chess match shifts in favor of the man on the mound. And then Angel Martinez fouled it off. And then he fouled off another one. And then another. And another. And one more. 5 consecutive foul balls on 0 and 2. Scherzer threw the 4-seam fastball, trying to blow it past him. He threw the curveball, trying to bury it and get the chase. He threw the slider, hoping it would dart out of the zone and produce a flailing, off-balance swing. Nothing worked. Every pitch that Martinez did not hit fair, he hit foul. Every offering that Scherzer reached into his arsenal to produce, Martinez had an answer for. And you could feel it, watching that at-bat unfold. You could feel the moment when the dynamic of the entire confrontation shifted. 7 pitches into an at-bat that began with Scherzer holding every advantage, and now the pitcher was the one searching. Now the pitcher was the one running out of ideas. He went to the curveball in the dirt, reaching, trying to be cute, hoping for the strikeout on a ball a foot out of the zone. Ball. He threw the changeup, ball. He threw the slider to the ball. Full count. And with the count full, with nowhere left to hide, Scherzer did the only thing a pitcher in that situation can do. He threw the fastball. And Angel Martinez, who at this point had seen every single pitch in Scherzer's arsenal across those 7 pitches and had essentially received a complete scouting report on the fly, hit it out of the park. Had him 0 and 2. Could not put him away. Could not find the pitch that ends the at-bat. And that, in one at-bat, in one perfectly compressed demonstration of the central problem, is the entire Max Scherzer situation summarized. He no longer has the put-away pitch. He no longer has the offering that a hitter, even when he is tracking it, cannot do damage against. And without that pitch, without that one weapon that a pitcher can reach for when he absolutely needs a strikeout, Max Scherzer is not a major league starting pitcher at the level this Blue Jays team needs. He is a man hoping hitters get themselves out. And major league hitters, when they stop being afraid of you, are exceedingly reluctant to do you any favors. So where does this leave the Blue Jays? What does this mean for the rotation going forward? Because this is where the story takes a turn that is both genuinely exciting, if you love this team and believe in what they are building, and deeply, uncomfortably complicated for the veteran on the mound. The cavalry is coming. Trey Savage is meeting with the Blue Jays organization right now to determine next steps, whether he makes one more outing in AAA or gets activated in time for the Red Sox series. Jose Berrios is making what could be his final rehab start in AAA on Tuesday, which would put him in line to return to the big league rotation as early as the series in early May. Shane Bieber is further away, still beginning his own version of spring training, facing live hitters and working toward game action with Ross Atkins estimating roughly a month before he is ready. But Savage and Berrios coming back within the next week to 10 days, that changes the mathematical reality of the rotation in a way that is going to force a very difficult conversation. Because right now, the rotation consists of Kevin Gausman and one other reliable arm, with Corbin Lauer and Max Scherzer filling out the back end. Patrick Corbin, improbably, has actually been doing his job. Lauer has his own complications, both performance-related and the very public, very uncomfortable dynamic he has created with the front office through his stated preference for starting over relieving, a preference he has made absolutely no effort to hide. But when Savage comes back and when Barrios comes back, somebody has to leave the rotation. The numbers and roster spots simply do not accommodate everyone. And the question that everyone in Toronto's baseball world is either asking directly or thinking about while pretending to think about something else, is whether Max Scherzer, with a 9.64 ERA, is the one who goes. Not released, not cut, but moved out of the starting rotation, optioned to a different role. Given space to work through whatever is happening with his stuff away from the pressure of being a named starter on a big league club that is already fighting for its playoff life. It is not a comfortable thing to say. It feels almost disrespectful to even type out loud, given everything this man has accomplished, given the Hall of Fame career that stands behind him like a monument to everything pitching greatness can look like when it is operating at full power. But respect for a player's legacy does not change what the numbers say. Respect does not erase a 9.64 ERA. And love for what a player has meant to the game of baseball does not make it acceptable to watch that player go out every 5 days and potentially cost a team a game before the lineup even has a chance to respond. The Blue Jays are in this uncomfortable position not because they made a mistake signing Scherzer, and not because anyone doubted his competitiveness or preparation. They are in this position because baseball is ruthless and time is merciless, and even the greatest arms in the history of the sport are not immune to either of those forces. The question now is not whether Max Scherzer has been great. He has been transcendently, historically, undeniably great. The question is whether he can be what this team needs him to be right now. And right now, with the evidence spread across every pitching metric available to modern baseball analysis, the honest answer is that he is not there. Not even close to there. What he does with that reality, how he responds, how he works, what adjustments he can find in the tape and the bullpen sessions and the conversations with his pitching coaches, will determine the next chapter of this story. Because Max Scherzer has surprised people before. He has been counted out before, in smaller ways, and responded by being better than anyone expected. The competitive fire that makes him Mad Max is not gone simply because the results have been bad. The question is whether the fire is enough to reignite stuff that appears to have genuinely diminished. The Blue Jays cannot wait forever to find out. The season is moving. The standings are not freezing in place out of courtesy. Every game played with a starter who gives up 7 earned runs in 3 innings is a game that chips away at whatever cushion Toronto is trying to build before the healthy version of this roster finally shows up and gives them a real chance. This is the most fascinating, most emotionally loaded storyline in Blue Jays baseball right now. And wherever it goes, whether Scherzer finds something and recaptures even a fraction of what made him great, or whether the rotation math eventually makes the decision for everyone, you are going to want to be here when it happens. Subscribe to this channel right now. Like this video. Turn on your notifications. And tell me in the comments what you think should happen. Do you keep running Scherzer out there and trust the competitor inside him to find the answer? Or do you make the hard call when Barrios and Savage return and protect this team's slim playoff window? I want every single one of your takes down below. This is the conversation Toronto needs to be having. And we are going to have it right here, honestly and without apology. Let's go, Blue Jays, but please, let's go with the urgency this moment demands.